So in this video, we're going to start talking about making decisions. And the first thing we're going to discuss are conditional statements. So what I'm going to show you right now is not real code. It's pseudocode. If you haven't heard that term, it's like a combination between English and programming. So this is going to be pseudocode for an if statement, also called conditional statements, which are the way of implementing the different paths, the forking paths in our programs based off of comparisons. So here's what the pseudocode looks like. The keywords I've highlighted in purple, excellent color choice. We have if, elif, which I hate this about Python more than anything. Other languages use else if, but elif is just so bizarre, and then else. So we'll go through this in a lot more detail, but let's just focus on this first line. So we have if, and then this is the pseudocode, the English portion. Some condition is true. So that is not going to fly in Python because it's going to think there's a variable named sum and another one called condition, and it doesn't know what we're doing, and it's going to freak out. But we would have something up here like if game equals not over, or if winner equals 1, or if high score is greater than 99. Whatever our comparison would go here, it needs to evaluate to true in order for this code, represented by do something, also not valid Python, but this code will only run if this bit is true. And so if this is false, Python moves on to the next line, else if. So it's like an otherwise if. So if the first thing wasn't true, then try this one. So some other different condition. If that's true, do this. Notice the indentation, by the way. We'll spend more time talking about that. But Python is very white space sensitive. That's how it knows what pertains to which part of the if or else, elif, or the else. So finally, there's else, and else is like a catch-all otherwise. So if this first one didn't happen, this one wasn't true, then this is every other condition or every other possible situation, do this. I want to mention you do not have to have an elif or even an else, and you can have more than one elif if you want. So what actually goes in this some condition is true part of the pseudocode? It can vary a lot, and we're going to spend a couple videos talking about it. We're going to see a really simple example next, right after this slide, in this video, where we basically compare a single string to check if it equals another string. So we'll be able to see if color equals purple, if city equals Tokyo, that sort of thing. But then there's a lot of other comparisons we'll get into as we progress through the next couple of videos. But again, this first simple example looks something like this. So another little Game of Thrones example where we have a variable called name. And we're checking if name is equal to Arya Stark. By the way, this double equal sign, we're jumping ahead. We'll talk more about it in a couple videos from now, but it's how you check for equality. A single equal sign, remember, is to assign a variable. So if we had a single equal sign, it would try and save Arya Stark into the variable name. Double means compare them. So if name is equal to Arya Stark, so this is the do something if true. So if this is true, do this. If it's not true, try this one. Is name equal to Jon Snow? If it is, print you know nothing. If it's not, okay, then otherwise just print carry on. So we have 3 possible outcomes in this single program, depending on what name is defined as. So we have name. If it's Jon Snow, we get you know nothing printed out. If name is Arya Stark, we get Valor Margulis. It's a little like catchphrase thing. I think it means all men must die. Otherwise, which I'm representing by a star just to mean anything else, we get carry on. Okay, so you can take my word for it, or let's go over here to a file I've created called firstexample.py. I've included it if you want to just copy the code, and it has the exact same thing. All that's missing, of course, is a definition for name. So we could do name equals input like this, or we could hard code it. So I'm just going to type to start, name is Jon Snow, and hit save. And I do want to point out, we will talk more about comparisons, but when you compare strings, everything matters. So spacing, capitalization, it all matters. So if I had lowercase j, uppercase S, it's not going to equal Jon Snow with capital J. But that's for another day. Well, actually for today, but a later video. So we'll leave it at Jon Snow. And I'm going to go run this. Python 3, first example.py. So we get you know nothing, as you can see here. Put in Jon Snow, we get you know nothing. All right, let's change that J, as I mentioned, to a lowercase j. Now what do you think will happen? What will be printed out? Let's try it. And we get carry on, because it's not equal to Arya Stark, it's not equal to Jon Snow anymore, so we get the otherwise, carry on. As I did want to show that we don't have to have all these other components. We could just have a simple if statement, a one-off thing. Maybe there's a single thing we're checking for, and there isn't an otherwise. We just want to check. Is name Arya Stark? That's totally valid. Nothing prints out. But if we do change it to Arya Stark, now we get Valar Morghulis. The other thing I'll show you is that the indentation does matter. So if I did this, what do you think will happen? Let's try it. I get an error because Python tells me, hang on, wait a minute. There was an if, the line before. I was expecting an indented block afterwards. I didn't get one. So it kind of treats this as if it was just a regular print, but it's expecting an indented line. It doesn't have to be a print. I should be very upfront about that. We could do a lot of different things in here. And we will. In fact, most of the time we won't just be printing things out. We just have only learned how to print recently, so we're doing that. The other thing I'll point out, indentation, the standard is 4 spaces. In Sublime, if you just in a Python file, I believe by default it's 4. But you could also just do 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can set your tab size to be 4 as well down here. Okay, so I will uncomment all that. The last thing I realized I didn't touch on is that we need these colons. So these colons are really, really important to Python. It's kind of like an indicator of there's going to be an indented block below. And without them, we'll get a syntax error. If we try running this now, it says invalid syntax. You can't have an if statement without that colon there. So just want to wrap it up by just mentioning the syntax matters, the indentation matters. But really, this video is more about introducing the concept of these conditional statements, getting you used to seeing if and elif and else, and this idea of having branching paths. Because for the next couple of videos, we're going to be focusing a lot on what we can put here or here to make different decisions, but they all, at the end of the day, evaluate to true or false. Okay,